Dear ladies and gentlemen, so-called believers and unbelieving kuffar, as we mentioned earlier, that we shall address all and every relevant issue dealing with Muhammadan Islam and the Arabs. We have been requested by many of our supporters to discuss President Obama and his attitude to the Arabs and Muhammadan Islam in particular. We have listened very attentively to many of his speeches regarding his own background, and especially those he gave in Turkey and Egypt. In his speech in Egypt, he followed the usual disinformation about alleged contributions to sciences and arts under Muhammadan Islam as if they were created from nothing and by devout Muslims. He spoke of commonalities between the American Constitution and the Quran, such as religious tolerance, human dignity, freedom of religious belief, dignity of man, racial equality, etc. You all know by now that his comments are either those of a dangerously naive person or are deliberately deceptive and misleading, to put it mildly, since the Quran hates and despises every vestige of the American Constitution. That Muhammadan Islam is utterly incompatible with democracy. That Muhammad's Quran is intolerant of the rights of man, especially when it comes to the rights of women. That Muhammad's Quran cannot and will not allow any other belief system to exist on earth unless it is subservient to Sharia law. That Muhammadan Muslims discriminate, humiliate, and terrorize other belief systems in every state under their control at the very time that Obama was extolling their virtues. That not a single benevolent characteristic mentioned by Obama can be applied to Muhammad's Quran or Muhammadan Islam. Obama's attempt to please everyone will end up in tragic failure. It will lead us all to the very disaster that he is attempting to avoid. If Obama thinks that by apologizing and groveling to the Muhammadans will make them like him or listen to him, he is very much mistaken. They will and do disrespect him even more. The worst part of his speech comes at minute 19.05, when he deliberately misquotes a verse from the Quran that every single Muhammadan preacher before him deliberately misquotes also. He said that the Holy Quran says that if anyone slew a person, it would be as if he slew the whole people, and if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the whole people. We have addressed this very verse in our chapter 91, titled Slew the Whole World, that addressed this subject thoroughly. I shall repeat part of it to remind you. Al-Ma'idah 5.32. On that account, we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone slew a person unless it be for murder or for spreading mischief in the land, it would be as if he slew the whole people. And if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the life of the whole people. It gives me absolutely no pleasure whatsoever to tell our audience again and again and again that, like everything else that we have been showing regarding Muhammadan Islam and its followers, the above verse is misquoted with deliberate falsification to pretend to the mostly ignorant and trusting world that Muhammadan Islam is a peaceful and peace-loving belief system. This verse, like hundreds of others in the Quran, is plundered and perverted from the Bible and or from Jewish rabbinic traditions. This particular one is from Pirkei Avot, sayings of the fathers, in the Mishnah. Ladies and gentlemen, when the above verse is recited in full, one would understand that it was Allah addressing the people of Israel and only the people of Israel, but neither Muhammad nor his Arab followers. Whether deliberate or not, Obama deceived hundreds of millions of listeners with his omission. He kept repeating the mantra that the USA is not at war with Islam, while actually ignoring the fact and reality that it is Muhammadan Islam that is and will continue to be at war with the USA. That Muhammadan Islam unilaterally declared jihad, eternal and holy war, against all unbelieving kuffar 1400 years ago. that what we have at hand today are not manifestations of extremists, but actually the fulfillment by fundamentalist Muhammadan Muslims of the Quran's instructions. That these fundamentalists are not radical. They are actually the norm. They are only following Allah's alleged commandments in Muhammad's Quran. Obama quoted another verse from the Quran about telling the truth, that he, Obama, was doing just that in his speech. Having very attentively listened to his 55-minute speech, I am extremely upset at the almost total lack of any tangible truth in it. Ladies and gentlemen, what is missing from a speech is just as important as what the speaker is telling us. While extolling the unwarranted virtues of Muhammad and Islam, Obama willfully and deliberately missed a stellar opportunity to also tell his audience about the following extremely relevant matters. He portrayed Islam as a tolerant religion, but said nothing about the persecution of Christian Copts, the original descendants of the pharaohs, in the very Egypt he was being entertained. He mentioned absolutely nothing about the genocide perpetrated by the Arab, light-skinned Sudanese against the black dark-skinned Africans of Darfur. He spoke about the Palestinian refugees without once mentioning the nearly 900,000 Jewish refugees from Arab and Muslim countries between 1948 and 1973. He equated the slaughter of the Jews of Europe with the self-inflicted suffering of the Palestinians. He said nothing about the Arab Christians in the Palestinian territory whose numbers are being diminished by the day due to intolerant Islam. How dare Obama speak of justice, progress and dignity of all human beings in Islam? Where, when and how did he come to this obviously absurd conclusion? Where in any Muhammadan Muslim country can Obama point out such sublime characteristics? The women under Islam? Maybe Hindus in Pakistan. Better still, Jews in Arabia? Why do we, the victims of the violence perpetrated, financed, supported and executed by Mohammedans, need to apologize to our oppressors? Why does Obama think that as the President of the USA, he should humble himself by owing any apology to the very people who masterminded 9/11? Although John Adams, the second president, signed a peace treaty with Tripoli pirates, he did not compliment Islam. Obama misrepresented the facts and moreover omitted the castigation and condemnation of Islam by John Adams' son, John Quincy Adams, the sixth president, who said, "In the 7th century of the Christian era, a wandering Arab of lineage of Hagar, i.e. Muhammad, adopting from the new revelation of Jesus the faith and hope of immortal life and of future retribution, he humbled it to the dust by adapting all the rewards and sanctions of his religion to the gratification of the sexual passion. He poisoned the sources of human felicity at the fountain by degrading the condition of the female sex and the allowance of polygamy, and he declared undistinguishing and exterminating war as part of his religion against all the rest of mankind. The essence of his doctrine was violence and lust, to exalt the brutal over the spiritual part of human nature. Between these two religions, thus contrasted in their characters, a war of 1200 years has already raged. The war is yet flagrant. While the merciless and dissolute dogmas of the false prophet shall furnish motives to human action, there can never be peace on earth and goodwill towards men. It is an irony that the leader of the most powerful nation on earth tells such blatant untruths, if not lies, just to ingratiate himself with the very enemies of all human rights, the Muhammadan Muslims. Obama's narcissistic self-righteousness and delusional liberalism tragically ignore both facts and reality and will, I predict, bring only strife, social and political unrest in the USA and around the world.